We're excited to announce the release of Sage 300 Construction and Real Estate, version 25.1. With this release, you can now make general ledger accounts inactive. After viewing this video, you'll know how to deactivate general ledger prefixes, base accounts, and full accounts. Before we get started, a couple of quick notes. We recommend that you view this video at full screen for best legibility. You'll find complete details about inactivating general ledger accounts in the release notes. This release also includes additional enhancements that are explained in the release notes. You can find the release notes from any application by going to Help, Product Documents. Expand Sage 300 Construction and Real Estate. Expand version 25, and then click the link to the release notes. The ability to make general ledger accounts inactive is a significant change that better accommodates your growing and changing business. You can now remove accounts from lists when you no longer use them, such as those related to sold entities or properties, closed divisions, paid-off loans, or other structural changes to your organization. Your general ledger chart of accounts can be extensive, especially when searching through lists for the account to post specific transactions. You can now deactivate general ledger prefixes, base accounts, or full accounts. This removes them from active lists when you're entering transactions. In addition to making lists more usable, it prevents accidental entries to an incorrect account. We'll go through the steps to make each type of change and then see how this changes what you see in the system. In order to deactivate prefixes, base accounts, or full accounts, you'll need to enable Audit Setup activity. In General Ledger, go to Tools, Options. On the General tab, select Audit Setup activity, and then click OK. Once Audit Setup activity is enabled, application administrators or any user with security access to the Change Audit Field's permission can make General Ledger prefixes, base accounts, and full accounts inactive. Note that once you finish changing general ledger accounts, you should immediately return to Tools, Options to turn off Audit Setup activity. We'll start with a full account. Let's imagine that the mortgage for one of our properties has been paid off entirely. We'll go to Setup, Accounts, and choose the account to deactivate. Press Enter to move to the lower portion of the window and select the Inactive checkbox. Then click Save. If you ever want to change this account back to active, you can do so as long as the prefixes and base accounts that make up the account are not already inactive. Simply clear the checkbox and click Save again. We'll leave this as is and click Close. Anytime an account's setup is changed, the activity is recorded in the Log Viewer. We'll go to Tools, Log Viewer. Notice that the message identifies the account that was changed. You can double-click the Details icon to see what changed. And you can search for specific accounts by entering the account number in the search box. Now let's look at what happens when you try to enter a transaction to the inactive account. In this example, our general ledger settings are configured so that we first enter the account prefix and then enter the base account. Your system might let you enter the full account in one column, rather than the prefix in one column and base in the next. This is configured in File, Company Settings, General Ledger Settings, Processing Options. Once you enter the base account, a message indicates that the account is inactive, just as we'd expect. You cannot create new entries to inactive accounts, but you might need to modify or void an earlier entry. Let's say that we need to change an entry that was made to the mortgage payment account, even though it has been made inactive. We'll go to Tasks, Change Entries, and you can make a change to the date, amount, or other information as needed. Making an account inactive means you can't enter new transactions, but you can still adjust or void existing transactions as needed. A quick way to see which accounts have been marked inactive is to add the inactive field to the account inquiry. You can add a filter to the inquiry to show only those accounts that are inactive. Now let's suppose that instead of marking one full account inactive at a time, you need to work with prefixes and base accounts. You've noticed that some of your properties have duplicate accounts for cash, operating. You want to leave only one of these accounts active. We'll go to Setup, Prefix/Base, Base Accounts, and enter the first base account. Press Enter, click Inactive, and then click Save. The message asks you if you want to set all full accounts with this base account to be inactive. In this example, that's exactly what we want. In some cases, you might want to make a base account inactive without changing the full accounts that use that base at the same time. This would mean that you can't create any new full accounts with that base, but you can continue posting transactions to the existing accounts. However, we'll click Yes here. The next message confirms that the accounts were changed, and again, the change is documented in the log viewer. Recall that your general ledger account format can have up to 3 prefixes, prefix A, B, and C, plus their base account. These prefixes are unique to your organization. The number of prefixes you use and the name of each prefix level were established when you first implemented the system. In the sample data set you're seeing here, prefix A is the entity and prefix B is the property. Again, your setup might look different. Let's imagine that we've sold one of our properties, so we'll no longer be making entries to any accounts related to that prefix. We'll go to Setup, Prefix Base, and choose prefix B, the property. We'll enter the property, press Enter, select Inactive, and click Save. The message asks whether we want to set all full accounts that use this prefix to inactive. You'd click Yes if you're finished all processing related to that prefix and don't expect any further transactions. You might click No here if you're preparing to wrap up business related to the prefix, so you don't want to create any new accounts, but you might still have transactions to enter for some of the accounts under that prefix. For this example, we'll click Yes, and the message indicates the number of accounts changed. Now let's see what happens if we set this prefix back to active. We see the question about setting full accounts back to active. We'll click Yes and notice that only the full accounts whose base accounts are active were returned to active status. The full account that uses the base account that we marked inactive a moment ago will not be automatically reactivated. In this example, we worked with a property which is prefix B, and this company doesn't have a prefix C. Let's see an example using prefix A. We'll go to Setup, Prefix/Base, Entity, which is prefix A, and enter the prefix. We'll press Enter and select the inactive checkbox. Click Save, and the message asks whether we want to make all of the full accounts with this prefix inactive, as well as any prefix levels below it, in this case, any properties that fall under this entity. We can select Yes to make all full accounts and properties under this entity inactive, or we can select No to leave everything as is except for this entity. Selecting No will prevent you from creating any new properties, prefix B, under this entity, as well as any full accounts. Now that we've finished making accounts inactive, let's return to Tools, Options, and clear the Audit Setup Activity checkbox. This is an important step for system security. Let's talk about a couple of other ramifications to making full accounts, base accounts, or prefixes inactive. Before the release of this feature, you might have used a workaround, such as adding Do Not Use to the account descriptions. Your certified consultant can help you quickly set these accounts to inactive using an ODBC query. Background entries that retrieve an account based on a retrieval hierarchy could result in transactions posted to inactive accounts. In these cases, a warning is printed in the General Ledger Posting Journal. If you use Setup, Generate Accounts to automatically create accounts using your prefixes and base accounts, the process will ignore any prefixes or base accounts that are set to inactive. You won't be able to add an account on the fly if either the prefix or base account is inactive. In any setup windows in which you select a full or base account, such as this example from Accounts Payable Settings, GL Entry Settings, you won't be able to select an inactive component. In property management, if the general ledger prefix associated with a property is inactive, that property is not included in the Generate Rent role and Generate Late Charges tasks. In this video, you learned how to deactivate general ledger prefixes, base accounts, and full accounts to better accommodate your growing and changing business. Be sure to read the release notes for more details about changes in this release.